Quick disclaimer, all lists and reviews uploaded to this channel are opinion pieces. These lists aren't compiled based on popular opinion, polls or surveys, or with the sole intention of making the masses happy. These are all my personal favorites. I don't make these lists with the hopes that I'll please the world and get tons of subs and likes, which probably explains my millions of subscribers. I make these videos because I like talking about video games. So most lists I've seen on YouTube start and end almost the same exact way. I'll see a top Nintendo console list, and as sure as the sun rises, it'll end with a Mario or Zelda game, or a game that includes said characters, like a Smash or kart game. You probably won't see that here. And while I'm not trying to be an asshole, if you want such lists, I'm certain you know where to find them, as they're a dime a dozen. This list is compiled in no specific order. Actually, I think it's in alphabetical order, but other than that, no particular order. Let's get this party started.
Capcom vs. SNK 2. Mark of the Millennium 2001.
Capcom vs. SNK 2. Released November the 6th, 2001. Capcom and SNK, these two fighting giants, came toe to toe. We were able to customize our fighting styles with groove selects and see what happens when some of our favorites from each side collide. At this point, I was still neck deep in love with the fighting genre, and although I wasn't an SNK fan, I certainly was a Capcom fan. And since the Fatal Fury days, I did enjoy using Taekwondo expert Kim Capwan. Love this title, and really wouldn't mind seeing a third installment. Dark Cloud, released on May 5th, 2001 by Level 5 and Sony Computer Entertainment America. Dark Cloud was one of the first RPGs I played on the PS2. At the time, Dark Cloud was also one of my favorite RPG experiences. At this point in my life, I was able to dedicate a lot more time to games, and completing an RPG was nothing unique. Today, however, a completely different story. Now, in Dark Cloud, you set out on a quest to figure out the mysteries behind said Dark Cloud, which brought an entire continent to its knees. You were able to construct villages and interact with your constructions. An innovative game for its time, which certainly played its part in taking up a large chunk of my time. Capcom released this on October 16th, 2001. In 2001, I was just getting used to this style of gaming from Capcom, as earlier that year I got Onimusha. Now, I'm not saying that Devil May Cry and Onimusha are the same, but they do have their similarities. Playing Devil May Cry for the first time, I was impressed to say the least by the fluid and highly stylized gameplay. Jumping and flipping about with two guns blazing, fighting some really impressive enemy types and difficult boss battles. I've since then outgrown this franchise and haven't returned to it since part 2, I think, but it still stands as one of my favorites from this generation.
Strange and ironic that it will end the same way.
I started playing GTA from its inception. I was impressed with the original, even with its bird's eye top-down view. I followed this franchise all the way to Part 3. Part 3, released by Rockstar and DMA Designs on October 22nd, 2001, took the game to a completely new level. Now, I will admit, as much as I love GTA, I've never completed a GTA game. Something I plan to attempt one day. Yeah, I have a video game bucket list a mile high. I'll probably make a list of that as well. The switch to 3D open world sandbox was welcomed with open arms by the community and still appreciated to this day.
So keep your hands on the wheel. If you don't mess this up, maybe there'll be more work for you. Now get out of here.
Released by Crave and Lightweight on January 3rd, 2001, Kenge, Master of the Bushido, is a samurai game set in feudal Japan, where you started out from scratch as a samurai student and worked your way up the ranks in your pursuit of glory and honor. The controls, even by yesteryear's standards, were awkward and clunky to say the least, with a bit of a learning curve, but once I got used to it, I was hooked, played it through to the end.
Then the High Senate created the government-controlled Rangers. And that's my beginning.
June 17th, 2003, Warthog and Vivendi Universal released Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter. Now, a number of the games on this list did not age well. This is one of them. But back in 2003, although by this time there were much better games to choose from, I still took a liking to this one. Even with its played out story, cliche lead character, it was still fun to play. You were part of a group of bounty hunters hired to rid the universe of the scum responsible for the rising crime wave.
I joined because that's what I do. Hunt, protect, and kill.
On November 9th, 2002, Treyarch and Activision released Minority Report on the PS2. Although this was based on the movie, it wasn't a piss-poor tie-in. Yes, many will say otherwise, but the simple fact is I liked it. I liked the gameplay, the graphics, and crazy-ass ragdoll physics, and even the quirky ending was interesting to say the least. There are quite a few Rockstar games on this list. Released by Rockstar Toronto and Rockstar Games on January 29, 2001, Oni, based on an anime thriller of the same name, was one of my earlier titles on the system. It had a steep learning curve and overall shitty controls. None of this stopped me from playing it all the way through, however. I had a great time with this one, as slowly but surely it got better. It was May 21st, 2001. Capcom gave us Onimusha Warlords. Another story set in feudal Japan, only this time there's a ton of magic and demons involved, and of course a kidnapped princess. You're Samanosuke, a lone samurai who's ready to carve everyone who stands against you a brand spanking new asshole. You cut through demon warrior after demon warrior as you make your way to the damsel in distress in style.
I will save Princess Yuki.
A day after Onimusha Warlords was released, Volition Inc. and THQ gave us Red Faction, one of my all-time favorite first-person shooters on the PS2. I had a good time with Part 2 as well, but this one sealed the deal. A revolution has stirred up on Mars and you're smack dab in the middle. You join a group of rebels called the Red Faction to take down the evil corporation and get to the bottom of the tyranny and mysterious plague killing miners. With more firepower than you can shake a stick at, numerous vehicles to commandeer, it's off to save the Red Planet.
Survival is not enough.
It's safe to say that this generation of consoles is what got me hooked on first-person shooters. I never got into Quake, Doom, or any of the others on consoles like the N64 or PlayStation. Yeah, that's right, never cared for GoldenEye either. But by the time this generation rolled around, I was in deep. Now, Return to Castle Wolfenstein at the time was up there on my list of personal bests. I had a whale of a time cutting down Nazis and hell spawns to the very end. This is one of those 2003 games which were way better than Mace Griffin. Released May 30th that year by Activision, it set in motion a true love for the Wolfenstein franchise that lives on to this day. Now, if this list was in order of preferences, Jet Li's Rise to Honor would be at number 1. Long before any of the Arkham games, long before the Middle-earth games, Sony Computer Entertainment Foster City Studios released Rise to Honor on February 17, 2004. I have absolutely no proof other than the obvious disparity in release dates, so don't quote me on this, but I firmly believe the Arkham games got their fighting style gameplay from this little under-the-radar gem. Using the analog sticks in different directions to execute seamless attacks and combos started right here. I don't think this game was very popular or sold very well, but this has to be one of the smoothest, most intuitive beat-em-ups of its time. October 28, 2000, Angel Studios and Rockstar Games released this gem, Smuggler's Run. Smuggler's Run will also be in my top 5 or this list in order of preferences. This game is smooth and addictive, one of those PS2 games I had to play through to the end, with very little breaks in between. I often wondered why there weren't more released, then I figured it out. When playing GTA 3 and onwards, games like Smuggler's Run, well, the things you do in Smuggler's Run are treated as mini-games, quests, and side quests really. I mean, the things you do in Smuggler's Run are basically done in GTA, so maybe that's why this series never got more than a part 2. I love this game though, and it, unlike many other games on this list, has aged very well. Still a joy to play today. Would gladly jump at the opportunity to play Smuggler's Run 3 or a remake.
Good, baby. It's all.
Soul Calibur 3.
I've outgrown fighting games. Not saying I don't like them anymore, or they're for kids, but mentally, the excitement or urge to jump at the latest release and play it for hours on end just isn't there anymore. Back in the PS2 era, however, that desire was alive and well, so in 2005 when Namco released Soul Calibur 3, I was all over this. It was October the 25th to be exact, and this new iteration was a welcome addition to my collection. Maxi, Taki, and Astaroth grew to be my characters of choice, Astaroth being number 1. Although I'm not into fighters anymore, I'd love to see a new Soul Calibur pop up soon. Now I hear people asking for certain Rockstar titles to make a return, like Bully, and of course Red Dead is coming, but other than Smuggler's Run, I'd really love to see a new State of Emergency. I know there's State of Emergency 2, I own it, but in my opinion they tried to fix something that was not broken. State of Emergency 2 is nothing like the original. This was another gem by Rockstar, released February 12, 2002, and there has been nothing like it since then in my opinion, and it deserves an honorable return.
Stage complete!
On October 16, 2003, Capcom released Street Fighter EX3. Now I will agree, this release wasn't nearly the best in the franchise, and by franchise I don't mean the EX franchise, I mean Street Fighter on a whole, but I did have my fair share of enjoyment from this title. It was different, and while I agree Street Fighter is better kept in 2D, this iteration had a certain charm to it, a certain je ne sais quoi. I love what they did with Ryu and Ken's Hurricane Kick, where you kinda had to input it manually. On October 25, 2000, Namco released one of the best Tekken games to date, Tekken Tag Tournament. There isn't much to be said about this game that has not been said a million times before. On a personal note, however, which is all these lists are about really, the nostalgia is turned up to 12 out of 10. This was the time in my life where fighting games reigned supreme and long nights which turned into wee hours of the morning with friends were commonplace. Using favorites like Lei Wulong and Hwoarang, battling it out till thumbs were sore and wrists were exhausted, was considered a standard weekend.
You win.
January 19, 2003 was when Team Soho and Sony Computer Entertainment America released The Getaway. Now although GTA is on this list, I have to make this clear. I'm no real GTA fan. As I've stated, I enjoyed GTA games in the past, but never enough to complete one. However, clones like Mafia 2 and The Getaway totally and completely captivated me from start to end. Yes, I prefer games like Sleeping Dogs, The Getaway and Mafia 2 over GTA games. Why? Well, I'm not 100% certain. Maybe I'm just that kind of person who's always rooting for the underdogs. Anyway, The Getaway, with terrible vehicle controls, not so great visuals even for its time, but a great story and good gameplay had me hooked. It had multiple stories and endings as you could play as more than one character, but that was never for me. Once I complete a game, once I get to the ending, that's good enough for me. It's on to the next thing. Too many games, too little time. I particularly love the way waypoints were handled in this game while driving. They use the car's indicators to tell you where to go. Nice little addition, I think.
How the hell am I supposed to manage that? McCormick, the head of the flying squad, Bent, he's the one who nicked me for that 5-year stretch.
Virtua Fighter 4.
It was August 13th, 2003 when Sega released Virtua Fighter 4 on the PS2. Now this is also another series that needs an update. A new Virtua Fighter game would definitely give me a reason to get back in the fighting game scene, if only for a while. I've always considered Virtua Fighter to be a tactician's game, not a button smasher's paradise. The fact that it required some semblance of skill drew me to it, as far back as the Saturn and Dreamcast days. As soon as I get my broken Saturn replaced or up and running again, I'll include it in games like Last Bronx on the list. Last on the list is this odd one. Way of the Samurai, released May 31st, 2002 by Acquire and BAM Entertainment, was another of those samurai games that grabbed me. It wasn't by any stretch a great game, but I have a soft spot for ancient Japanese culture, especially where martial arts are concerned. It's just how I grew up, I guess, practicing the arts since the 80s. Way of the Samurai puts you in the shoes or wooden slippers of a wandering samurai who is dropped smack in the middle of a feud between two clans. It's of course your job to set things straight while kicking a lot of ass in the process. Well, that's it. Another day, another list. Let me apologize for the tardy way in which this channel has been run, but based on my meager subscriber count, it's obvious this channel does not pay the bills, so I have to prioritize accordingly. I am, however, going to try to step things up a bit. I already have a GameCube and original Xbox list in the works, with the intention of making many more, as I do have a really huge collection, and I've noticed that people check out my lists more than anything else I upload. So, thanks to my subscribers and non-subscribers for checking out my videos, all 5 of you. And if you like this video, please leave a like and sound off in the comments section so I'll know to make more. If for some reason this video pissed you off, you know where to find that dislike button. And until next time, thanks a ton for watching.